Okay, welcome everybody to Puistokatu 4. Okay, curtains are closing, thanks. This is the information session for the general grant call that the Nessling Foundation is organizing in August. This session is for funding for doctoral thesis and postdoc research. Welcome everybody. This will be streamed online on YouTube or on our YouTube channel. So who are watching online, please send your questions through the chat. And our experts here are answering them as we go on, but also we can pick up those questions afterwards. And you here live here, I'm glad to see everybody here, and you will be able to ask questions as well. My name is Jussi Hakanen. I'm the communications specialist here at Nessling Foundation, and welcome to all. Here is our agenda for today. I'm going to give you the main key points right off the bat for you about our general grant call. Then I will welcome Ina, our Science and Executive Director, on the stage to talk a little bit more about the Nessling Foundation, a brief history, just a very brief one. Then about the theme for our general grant call, sustainability transformation, and then she will share the criteria for funding the decisions. I will then pick up again, talk about being an active researcher, another important topic for us, and then about our communication and interaction plan. Then I will share the stage with our grantees. We have Gloria and Lilith, who will share their experiences about being a Nessling grantee and about being an active researcher. I will talk about what does the application include in concrete, and then some common mistakes to avoid and some frequently asked questions from our grant specialist, Christina. And then time for questions. All right, let's get going. This is our call for applications that we are now shouting to the world. It goes like this. In the general grant call, we are looking for active researchers and actors whose projects speed up the sustainability transformation that protects natural systems. That's a bit of a mouthful, but we will be coming back to the actual theme in a minute. First, I want to show you what you can apply for in our August grant call. 3 categories: funding for doctoral thesis, then funding for postdoc research, and then third, science-based action projects. We have another information session tomorrow regarding the action projects. So now, today, we are concentrating on the doctoral thesis and postdoc research. Those are personal grants for researchers. The doctoral thesis is for a maximum of 4 years and a minimum of 2 years. So we don't award grants for example, for your thesis. The postdoc research is for a maximum of 2 years. The fixed sums for the grants are 32,000 per year for the doctoral thesis and 36,000 per year for postdoc research, and no more, no less, except the additional research costs or whatever project costs you might have on top of that personal grant. But please do apply for these fixed amounts regarding which funding you are looking for. So what kind of research and action are we supporting in this grant call? For doctoral and postdoctoral research, we found the funding can be for disciplinary, interdisciplinary, applied research, or basic research. So no limitation regarding the type of research. We value projects that combine perspectives from different disciplines in new ways, and of course we want to see high quality research that actually deepens the existing knowledge. A word for the science-based action projects, those are especially for projects that put knowledge into action. So in those projects, we do not involve projects that have research. Let me be more clear. We fund a project that do not involve research in that category. But as I said, a separate information session will be on those for tomorrow, if that's something you are interested in. Some important and numbers regarding our general grant call. The awarded sum is 3.25 million euros. Last year we had 586 applications, which was a record high. You can see how it's divided between those three categories. The acceptance rate was 5%, which is low. We know that, but please don't be discouraged by that. The reality is that the best applications come through. For how many applications, it doesn't depend on how many applications there are. If your application is great, it will come through. And one important number to notice is we get sometimes questions if we only fund research for Finnish researchers. We do not ask for the nationality of our applicants, but we do ask them which language do they want to receive communications from us. So whether it's Finnish or English, and 34% ask for communications in English. So that tells you something. The most important number of them all, the deadline is on 28th of August, 1 minute before midnight. But please do not leave it at that. So who can apply? This is an important part. So the applicant must have a connection to Finland. So if the applicant is a Finnish citizen, they may apply for funding for work carried out in Finland or abroad. If the applicant is not a Finnish citizen, they must be affiliated with a Finnish research organization. And in addition to this affiliation, the applicants who are not Finnish citizens must then either reside in Finland or carry out the work in Finland. So this is an important notice to make. The grant is awarded for full-time research work only and cannot then be for part-time basis. We can award funding for doctoral and postdoc thesis to the same individual only once. So this is good to notice. A couple of more pointers for doctoral thesis. As I said, we award personal grants for maximum of 4 years, and we do not award funding for work that's lasting less than 2 years, such as the finalization of the dissertation. The applicant's undergraduate degree must be completed, and admission to the doctoral program must be confirmed before beginning the work, but this doesn't apply when however, it is possible to apply for a grant before you have completed your degree. But when you start your work, then it has to be completed. For postdoc funding, we fund postdoc projects if no more than 5 years have passed since the doctoral degree. So that that excludes parental leave or long-term illness or finished military or civil service or reasons such as those. So if you did your doctoral degree in 2021 or later, you are then able to apply for a grant this year in our August grant call. So those applicants who are close to completing their doctoral degree, you may apply, but then the permission to defend the dissertation must come to us, but no later than 6th of November in this fall. So those are the requirements. Okay, that was a quick run through who can apply. Hopefully you have a clearer sense now. Now let's move on. I'm going to ask our Science and Executive Director, Iina Koskinen, to talk about the brief history about our Nessling Foundation and the big theme for our grant call, sustainability transformation. Iina.
Thank you. Lovely to see you all here and also online. A few words about the Nessling Foundation's history. So we were funded back in the 70s by Mai Nessling. She was a widow of Tor Nessling, a prominent figure in the Finnish automotive industry. Mai and Tor, they both cared deeply about the environment, and they wanted to fund research, environmental research that protects nature. And since then, the Nessling Foundation has been the leading funder in environmental research in Finland. Its mission is to act for the good of air, water and earth, and this was the mission back then, and we are still on this path. The theme for the call this year is sustainability transformation. Why? Well, we know that the climate crisis and biodiversity loss are accelerating. We are crossing several planetary boundaries, and also freedom in science at the moment is under attack. Science is a global ecosystem, and those things that are, even though here in Finland things are pretty good, but what is happening outside our borders are highly affecting the Finnish science as well. And also those researchers who are working with climate and environment topics are often being harassed in the public discussion or social platforms. Then also, if we think of Europe, we can say that we are actually witnessing something that we call a green backlash, weakening of environmental regulation. Climate denialism is at the moment also rising again, and both globally and also in Europe. And here in Finland, even though we are committed to environmental goals, we still see that the economic growth and security narratives are dominating the space. However, it's good to remember that things are not this gloomy. So awareness of the problems has increased. There are solutions that exist, and many technological and societal changes are already underway. Back in 2024, Nature Climate Change published an article and which showed that actually 89% of the worst people want stronger climate action from their governments. 86 endorse pro-climate social norms. But what was actually surprising is that they mistakenly believe that they are in a minority. So actually a silent minority wants to change. So even though the political scene at the moment is quite black, so there's still hope if you think about the civil society. So what do we then need? Well, we here at the Nessling Foundation talk about sustainability transformation. This is what the ecological crisis needs at the moment. For us, it's a comprehensive, systemic process of societal change that is built in strong sustainability. We can't go across the planetary boundaries, and those are the boundaries that should kind of be also safeguarding our life, and we have to protect them by all means and align all human activities with the ecological limits of this planet, because those are the kind of the ground for all good life on Earth. And how does this happen then? So we feel that we need, because the changes must be very fast, so we need far-reaching transformation across all areas of life. Economy, governance, how do we produce and consume things in this society and globally, but also our values and mindset. So we need a systemic change that is going towards the same direction and fast. But this was quite a general description, so we keep it quite open on purpose, because we want you, the scientific community, to tell us actually what is important in this transformation and what is also overlooked in sustainability transformation. So this is a challenge for you to connect your research to our goals. So as said, the sustainability transformation is the key thing. And for us, it is a real transformation. So we don't fund research that aims to kind of maintain the status quo or fix some small part of this society, but we want to see a systemic change. How can you then think of it? So try to be quite concrete. And you can, for example, think, how does your project support in staying within the planetary boundaries? How does your project relate to these socio-ecological systems that are those interconnected systems that are formed both by society and the environment? And how does your project actually improve understanding or help to transform the structures, development, or functioning of a particular socio-ecological system? So you hear a lot about the word system, and this is what we are looking for, systemic transformation. And maybe lastly, how does your project generate new solutions, practices, or knowledge that speed up this all-encompassing transformation? So how to go forward? So on our website, there is a text. It's our definition of it. So read it carefully, think, and truly and realistically, is your research something that aims to push forward the transformation? and then try to be as concrete as possible. And if not, then this is not maybe your funding. Then a few words about the criteria. So as said, one big criteria is the sustainability transformation potential. So is the applicant or the project, is it showing a convincing link to the sustainability transformation? Is there a possibility that actually this project could leverage sustainability transformation and tackle those leverage points? Also, does it open new areas, new research directions, research questions, concept, etc., or other approaches? Then one criteria is research impact. So what is the societal relevance of this particular topic? Are those results something that one can apply? And first and foremost, communication of the research and the interaction with the stakeholders. You will hear more about this later on, but we want our researchers and grantees to work closely with the society and communicate and interact, because the sustainability transformation does not happen in isolation. Then, of course, we are a science funder, so scientific quality, theoretical and methodological basis, the capabilities of the researchers and potential research group, and cooperation and justified mobility. And this is something that I also want to highlight. We look at the mobility, but it has to be justified. And you will hear later on how, for example, we support traveling by land, etc. And then, of course, feasibility. So can you do your project? Does it look like a solid thing? So research implementation plan, availability of data, table and funding. So show this very clearly what you are going to do and when and how. And then when it comes to PhD work, so education and supervision research structures that support the researchers' research. And then lastly, the quality and realism of the risk assessment, because we want to support novel approaches, and we know that sometimes things can go in a bad direction, but it actually, in a way, doesn't matter, but you have to show that you are aware of the risks, potential risks of your research project. Then, last but not least, this active researchship is something that we truly value. So pay attention to this communication and interaction plan. And now Jussi will tell you more about this particular topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Ina. So let's continue on this theme on being an active researcher, and why do we think it's so important. So we believe that the impact of research doesn't just happen automatically, but and it actually happens when it emerges through interaction with society, and that can happen in numerous ways. So we want to support and encourage active researchers, or really new generation of active researchers that want to communicate and interact with society. And for this, as part of the application, we do require a communication and interaction plan that shows how your research will then benefit the society. And there is no one perfect plan. Each one is different regarding your goals and your target groups. And this is the part where reviewers, of course, the reviewers look at your application as a whole, but they really do pay particular attention to the quality and realism of the communication and interaction plan. And in that plan, you should answer these questions, which is a challenge since this has to fit into a single page, but it's the same for everybody. But please talk about the societal impacts of your project. How does your project actually contribute to the sustainability transformation? That is our vision. Then we want you to define the goals for your communication and interaction, and how do they actually help your project's main goals. We want to hear how you have defined your target groups and your stakeholders, and how are you interacting with them, and just these target groups, and why have you made those decisions. Then all that comes together then to form the methods of your communication. So what will be the means that you share the information about your project and your results with different audiences that you have defined, and how are you interacting with your stakeholders? This can take in many forms depending on your project. And then we want to see how you put these together on a timeline of your project. So not everything has to happen at once, of course, but throughout your project, how are you communicating and interacting with your target groups? And this comes with a really important notice that you should remember also to budget realistically for these communication efforts, which are not cheap. So please be realistic what you put on that part of the budget, which comes on top of your personal grant. We had a question beforehand sent in that if we can show an example of a plan here at this information session, but unfortunately the boring answer is not. It all depends on your project, your target groups, and your methods of communication. But yes, this is a challenge to fit this all in a single page. But there's also a chance for you to highlight your strengths when it comes to being a communicator. Just to show you that the world is full of options when it comes to creating impact and creating communications. We all have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, and you just, play on your strengths and try to strengthen your weaknesses depending on what your project actually needs. You know best how to make the most impact from your research, and then choose the methods that are available for that. But do not worry if you don't have all the skills yet. We do have a specific program for you if you manage to be our grantee. It's called Nessling Impact. This is where we offer personal support and joint training sessions throughout your stay with us. And this is why also you can include in your plan at this application stage something that you do not have the skills for yet, because we can work on that together. So we can build those skills while you would be the Nessling grantee. So that's quickly about what we think about being an active researcher, but now I want to give the floor to two people who are active researchers. First, let's hear from Gloria, how you have been an active researcher, and then we'll hear from Lilith. But first, Gloria.
Thanks, Jussi. Yeah. Hi everyone, on site and online. I'm happy to be here and just share a couple of words about my research process, and hopefully to help you or give some tips on how you can formulate your proposals. There is the flower in the way, but anyways, here, I'm Gloria Lauterbach, and I'm working at the moment on a 2-year postdoc project funded by the foundation. And my topic is working on urban darkness. So the title of my project is Care and Comments, Exploring the Potential of Artistic Interventions for Reframing Human-Nature Relationship Concerning Light and Darkness in Urban Environments. So it was a very long title, but in a way, the relevance of the project was that I was working beforehand in a quite long research consortium, and extensively researching on the negative impact on human, wildlife and nature regarding light pollution that we have in the Nordic countries. So my aim was, when I applied at Nessling Foundation, to actually bring that knowledge that I have gathered already in a previous research project to the city of Helsinki, and research that actually with citizens from the Helsinki city. So that made my project obviously also convincing, because there was a lot of idea to how can I actually translate that and research the benefits of urban darkness with citizens together. So concerning the relevance, it's really that we are in the Nordics. We have a kind of a huge problem of biodiversity loss because of our kind of light pollution. And I'm a design researcher and artistic researcher. So for me, the approach was doing that via participatory design research. So I titled this Gloria's Ideas of Being an Active Researcher for you. So what I'm thinking is research has to be very haptically. So this is maybe one tip that I can give for you, or what I think is an active researcher, like actually in practice doing. So you make complexities like in a way experienceable and imaginable, and through that also alternative futures accessible, which is for me really important in my research because we have already a lot of knowledge on the topic of light pollution. So I want to figure out in this 2-year project, or I'm at the moment figuring out, how that can be actually really brought into a city level. So that is for me researching through practice, through experimentation, and through dialogue and collaboration with citizens. Then active researcher for me means also like presenting research in as many contexts as possible. So I give lots of talks, facilitate workshops, talk to experts, try to inspire citizens, get in touch with city level officials, and so on. That list could be like endless. And then I'm working on embedding research into the public space. So I engage citizens, test ideas, find experts, build networks. For example, now at the moment I'm preparing my output for Helsinki Design Week as part of Design for a Cooler Planet exhibition, so that it really becomes a shared kind of like experience and design output that I'm doing together with citizens who have actually a lot of knowledge on urban darkness. What is also important is connecting with other research projects. So if you know other research projects who actually work on a similar kind of like topic, to also connect with them. I work with community research diaries to just give a kind of example of a research format that seems to also work really well. And I'm really trying to change and cross-cut also traditional research formats. So I'm not like a researcher who sits in the office, but I'm really like working in the field quite a lot. And my top 5 tips would be ask for help when writing your research proposal. Whatever sparring session, feedback session, whatever colleague you have at hand, or kind of external experts that you can kind of like contact, like use that. I think it's very valuable also for building already a network in a way. Then my other tip would be take risks in regard to research methodology and methods that you're applying. So also include the invisible, the complex, and the inaccessible. Like just to give an example, when I'm working with urban darkness, everyone's always like, okay, where do you start and where does it end? So that's really tricky when you work with such a complex phenomenon. But that also is actually a really positive thing when something is so complex, because you can access it from very many different fields and knowledges and perspectives. And so I think that's it shouldn't kind of scare you of actually like working with something that is so complex, especially when we work on systems levels. So then be as creative and as concrete at the same time as possible in your communication and interaction plan. I think creativity helped at least my proposal to also go through. Then make the relevance of your research as clear as possible, and that I mean like mainly to you, because then you can also communicate it really well. And then think and concept your research project and warrior scales. So I try to all the time think it like really in a big scale, and then again in a very small scale, and big scale and small scale, and so on. And that helped me also to kind of understand, again, the relevance, and to figure out with whom I talk about the project, and who is kind of like there to include, and who is interested, and so on. So those would be my tips. So, but enjoy also writing your application. Thanks a lot.
Yes, it's a great skill to be able to enjoy writing the application. Then a second point of view from Lilith. You're welcome.
Yes. Thank you, Jussi, and thanks to the audience and those listening online to give some space here to talk about my experience. So I had my doctoral research supported by Nessling Foundation. Specifically, well, I'm a biologist. I did my PhD at the University of Helsinki, specifically on the diversity and ecology of lichens in the subarctic. And I was funded for 2 years, 2022 to 2023, and have since finished that PhD. Like Gloria, I was also asked to share some tips about the application process. And, well, there is some overlap, but, well, nonetheless. So the first one is kind of obvious, but do give yourself enough time. I was, in the end, quite surprised how much time it took to really polish the application, even though I had a quite clear idea of what I wanted to do. Putting it really to paper does take time, and also a lot of time where you're not actively working on it and it's just somewhere in the back of your mind. If you do give yourself enough time, that also means that you have the opportunity to share these drafts very early, and then maybe also go through several rounds, maybe with the same people or with different people. On that note, I really benefited from sharing my application drafts with different people, like not just your supervisor if you're a PhD student or your group, but also people like way out of that, maybe even outside of academia. Of course, also the help from Nessling Foundation can really be great with that. On the same note of like talking to different kinds of people, especially when you're applying to a foundation like Nessling that is so interested in like diverse experience from society, is also to think widely. Especially if you're an earlier career researcher, maybe you don't have that much established networks yet, but this is the opportunity to approach people, ask for collaborations, just discuss, so you can maybe at this point still include other themes and maybe communication strategies you hadn't really thought about before. So this is now the time to be creative in that way. Another point is to early think about the kind of support you will need. That goes both into the kind of people you want to work with, to give each other your strengths and kind of push the project forward, but also material support. For example, I only applied for my personal grant and then spent 2 years trying to find money and leftover crumbs from other projects, because I had maybe mistakenly thought that it's better if I apply for less money, so I would get it. And I did get it, but probably it's better to not be so stingy. And as Jussi as already said, do give special attention to the communications and interactions plan. This is at the heart, as far as I understood, of Nessling Foundation, but also it was something that was really helpful for me. Like the research idea was already maybe quite clear in my mind, but this was something that maybe was a bit of a challenge, but also a really good opportunity to think about not just what kind of research you want to do, but also what does that mean? Like, who do you want to reach with that? What do you actually want to change in the world? And this is a great time to put it all down to paper and make it also clear to yourself. What that also ties into, again, is this theme of the active researcher. You already heard about it quite a bit, so this is what it looked like for me. So as you can see, there was all kinds of outputs. As you already saw on earlier slides, there was podcasts, TV appearances, teaching, academic, but also non-academic publications. And for example, this hiking paths that now are accessible for people, that include some of my my research findings. So Some of these were in the communications and interaction plans, some were not. Some of those opportunities just presented themselves during my research time, and because this is your own project, your own funding, you have the opportunity also to say yes to these kind of things if it pushes your project forward. So output is one thing, the outcome is maybe a bit different. As my research is somewhat more basic, I'm already happy if there's some awareness about lichens and their ecology and their threats, for example, in the general population. Also, basic research lies the groundwork for informed decision and policy making. So those are some of the outcomes you, if you're in a similar position, can hope for. Something that also came out of especially being an active researcher were interdisciplinary collaborations. So of course other fields of science, not just other hard sciences, but also like anthropologists, but also artists, activists that I interacted with, for example, due to fieldwork and so on. So it really also builds a very diverse and very interesting network when you are actively going out of your office. And of course, not to think too small of this is also, well, you will probably continue to being some kind of researcher, and all of these experiences also, at least for me, have also led to quite a bit of personal growth. Some short things still that came to my mind now that I was reflecting on it. For the active researcher aspect is, again, to get active, if you got your project, is also to start getting active early. I was a bit hesitant at the beginning because the research project wasn't so far ahead. I didn't have so much data, but when thinking about it, it's really not necessarily that's what people are looking for. So you don't need these extensive results. Most of you, I'm sure, already have a lot of things to give towards interested lay people or so on. Another aspect is to document and report your activities somewhat independently. I guess for a lot of people that is social media, but whatever suits you best works fine. It's just that something that came up to me because now I was looking for some of these things, and how the internet and everything works, things just tend to disappear from websites and so on. So that's maybe one tip that I've now gathered. Jussi already said, use your strength. You can also build new skills, but also push yourself a little bit. And one last thing, because this is the English language section, and it's something that I also maybe underestimated a little bit, is to plan your active researcher role. Also a little bit about possible language and cultural barriers. If you're someone that doesn't speak Finnish, maybe hasn't been here so long, at least for me, I had a little bit underestimated maybe how often that is something that I actually need to work around with, find people that work with me for translations and so on. So not a big roadblock, but something to keep in mind. And with that, I also want to thank you for your attention and, of course, wish everyone good luck with your applications.
Okay, thank you so much. So many great points, and I feel the heat is rising in the room. You must be very eager to write your applications, but still a couple of more points. But what I got from Gloria's and Lilith's presentation was to not work on it alone, to get help and start early, because I think there's a correlation between starting too late and then being to think it like it's too late to ask for help. So start early, so that also makes you want to reach out to people for opinions. But great to hear from you, but also I suggest you browse through the other funded projects that we have on our website. We've listed all projects that we have funded. So take a look at those headlines and short summaries, and you will most likely be inspired by them. We also have quite a few blog posts and articles on our website where the researchers talk about their research journey. So please take a look at those as well, so you get to know what it's like to be a Nessling grantee. Then some more concrete pointers. What does the application include? So we already have on our website the detailed instructions and all of the segments listed for the application. So take a look at those. There is a certain applicant details, project details, regarding instructions regarding the budget, and in the end, in August, you will be sending in the applications through our Nessling system. So be sure to register in advance to that system as well. So there will be no technical difficulties. In the application, we ask you to send in attachments for your research plan, then the communication and interaction plan we talked about, your CV and list of publications, and then also a commitment form signed by the project implementation site and the applicant. So please do not leave that at the last minute. You have to have that in advance, and you cannot then edit your application after you've sent the application. A couple of highlights from the instructions, sections that are new. We have updated our guidelines for sustainable practices. We talk about sustainability transformation, also we try to act accordingly. So already in the application, we ask you to take these into account, travel guidelines. So your project may require you to travel within Finland or abroad. So we ask you to take these into consideration. Think about, is the traveling really necessary? If it is, then please travel by land. But if you fly, then make the most of your stay at the destination and then offset emissions. Guidelines for catering. So if you plan in your communication interaction plan, seminars or workshop or other gatherings, so we require you to take the sustainability catering guidelines into account. So serve only vegan food, prioritize seasonal and local products, and then minimize food waste. And then regarding the data footprint, which is a big deal these days, so please take into account the climate and environmental impacts of artificial intelligence and other data management. Which brings us to the topic of using artificial intelligence when creating the application. So we ask you to use AI responsibly, follow the principles of good scientific practices. So you should ensure that the use of AI does not compromise data protection or information security or the reliability of your research in any way. And in the application form, we ask you this question: we ask you to indicate whether you have used AI in preparing the application, and if so, how. So we want to be open about the use of AI as well, and we want you to be open as well. All right, then the last section here, some common mistakes to avoid, and then some frequently asked questions. And I invite Kristiina Takinen, our grant specialist, to go through this.
Hi everyone. So let's dive into the practicalities where it is possible for some applicants to stumble upon. So let's try to prohibit that. I have listed here some of the most common mistakes and how to avoid them. Well, we require the affiliation to the research facility or university to be already there in time of applying. So the concrete thing for that is the commitment form signatures. So please be in time with these, because if you leave it to the last minute, it might be the situation that the dean of the faculty is not to be reached. So it might even prohibit you in sending the application. So please be on time. The second point is to actually apply the amount of personal grant that we have given. So for doctoral researchers, it's 32,000 euros per year, and for postdoctoral researcher, 36,000 euros per year. So we want all our applicants or our grantees to receive equal amount of income. So we don't grant anything lower or higher than this. So please check this and work accordingly. In addition to the personal grant, it is possible to apply for the justified project and research costs. Then, so there is no, we haven't defined any limit for those, but they need to be justified. The third point for doctoral research applicants is that please make sure that your supervisor actually leaves the statement in time, because the supervisor statement is a compulsory part of the application. So every year it happens, actually, unfortunately, that not every application receives this supervisor statement, and that unfortunately means that they need to be rejected because it's a compulsory part. So you can actually check this yourself in the Nessling system when going to your application, scroll into that part of the statement. You can see whether your supervisor has already given in the statement, or if not, there's a button where you can send a reminder. Then it's also very important to check that you actually have attached the correct documents to your applications, because that happens also, unfortunately, that people may have mistakenly attached wrong documents, and that obviously is problematic because certain documents are required. And also another point is to make sure that the information is coherent throughout your application, so that you actually check that it's a solid whole, the whole application and attachments. For instance, as an example, the duration of the project, that actually in the application form, the duration of the project matches with the one in your, or matches altogether with your research plan and also with your budget, that there are no strange things that raise questions. Then it's important to know that all our projects, they need to start at the earliest on 1st of January 2027 and at the latest on 1st of December 2027, so within the calendar year of 2027. So in case you apply the projects to start earlier or later, we can't grant it because this is our rule. Also, it's good to know that we can't grant the research costs alone, so they are only granted alongside the personal grant, so please be in mind of that. And also a very important thing to note is that please check with your university or research facility where you are planning to conduct your research whether they require the overhead share or not. And if they do, please do apply it on the application. There's a separate budget section for that. It can't be applied for or granted afterwards. And unfortunately, every year happens that someone is granted a project and they have not checked this detail during the application period, and then it unfortunately means that the university may deduct the 15% of the project cost, which is obviously unfortunate for the grantee. Then let's jump into the frequently asked questions. First, can I apply for research cost only? I have a salary position at the university. Well, unfortunately, you can't, because we grant those only alongside the personal grant. Our grant is intended for the researchers who don't yet have a funding. Is the affiliation with a Finnish research institution required at the time of application, or is it acceptable to obtain the affiliation after the application has been submitted or approved? We require the affiliation to be there at the time of the application. And of course, the concrete part is that the signature of the research facility needs to be there in the commitment form. Does the foundation support independent postdoc research? We require that there is an affiliation to a university or research facility, and that is mandatory. Can I apply for a part-time working grant? Unfortunately, no. The working grant is intended for full-time research work. But however, obviously we want to make possible different kinds of create a space for different kinds of life situations. So there is possible to do some part-time or occasional paid work that support your research project alongside the full grant. But it is up to maximum of 40% at a time. An overlapping researcher working contract with the salary for the same research is not allowed, but this doesn't exclude many universities make this small 20 to 30% of salary position or contract with grant researchers to sort of attach them more to the community. So that's completely fine. And in addition to that, you may still have like 20% time or not possibility to, for instance, write articles or whatever outside of academia, like do some additional work. Should postdoc research proposals align with specific themes, or are you inviting all teams? Yes, well, we fund only projects that support sustainability transformation, but no field of research is excluded there. Do I need have a permission of defense at the time of applying, when applying to a postdoc position? You do not. However, the permission of defense must be submitted to the foundation no later than 6th of November 2026 in order for the application to remain valid. So you might be in a very late stage of your PhD, but please think of this time span that is possible. Can I receive the grant as salary? Unfortunately, you can't. We award only personal grants in our general grant call. So here was my part.
Before we get to the questions, I want to show you the timetable. So today was the information session. You can spend your summer now then to read the instructions and start preparing. On the 10th of August, we open the booking for sparring sessions, so you can book a 10-minute call with one of our experts regarding your research plan or your communication and interaction plan. We also open up daily service hours by phone, and there you can ask questions regarding anything regarding the application. On the 17th, the application period starts, and you can fill in your application in the Nessling system. The deadline, again, is on 28th of August before midnight, and then the results will be announced on late November, and you will also have the chance to get feedback from your application at the end of November, beginning of December. We'll be sharing those dates later. But now it's time for questions. And I see that the chat is going crazy almost with questions. So let's bring out Ina and Kristina again to the floor to answer those. Let's start with one from the chat. Milla, do you have a good one there?
Yes, the chat has been very active and there are many good questions here. The connection to Finland is especially something that many have questions about. And I actually have a couple here. So the first one is that should the applicant be affiliated to a Finnish institution at the time of applying?
Yes. Yes, we require the affiliation to be there at the time of applying, and the commitment form, which is a compulsory attachment, needs to have the signature of the research facility where the research is conducted in.
Thank you. Another one is, do non-Finnish applicants have to already reside in Finland when applying, or could, for example, someone who wants to move to Finland and become affiliated with the Finnish institution apply?
Yes, but as said, the affiliation needs to be there at the time of applying, and the criteria was that the applicant must either live or reside in Finland, or the work needs to be conducted in Finland. So in that case, if the affiliation is there at the time of applying, then it's possible that the applicant, when being a grantee, moves to Finland.
Great. One more about this connection. So if the applicant is affiliated with the Finnish university, but the field work is conducted abroad, is that okay?
That is okay.
Great.
The main thing is the affiliation, and the main that the project is conducted, the work is conducted in Finland. Of course, small for instance, like fieldwork, is completely fine to be abroad.
Great.
Okay, then are there questions in the room? Please go ahead. All right, over there. Just a second for the microphone to come in.
Oh, mic. Hello. I have a question. I would like to get some clarification on the start of the work. That was a little bit of a confusing detail for me. What does it exactly mean that it can only start after the new year, like in 2027? Like, for example, like my PhD is about to start, you know, on the 1st of August when the academic year starts. Can I apply then for the funding and like, yeah, could you?
You mean if you can apply for funding to start in August 2027?
Like my, looking at the calendar, I'm thinking, okay, I'm already accepted as a PhD student. My affiliation with the Finnish organization, Aalto University, will start on the 1st of August. The application period is in August. The results will be somewhere closer towards the end of the 2026.
Yes,
and then, but you know.
Yes, now I got it. For this autumn, it's not possible to receive the funding anymore. The results will be published during November, late November. So the first time to start the grant work will be 1st of January. Obviously, you can already be working with your project, but the grant work can't begin, or the grant payment can't begin before the 1st of January.
Thank you for clarifying that. Just that the term work confused me a bit.
Point.
Okay, now I get it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Just a question regarding this permission for defense. Is that some sort of official form, or is it sufficient, for example, in my case, if my first supervisor would provide me a statement saying that, okay, in due time, he or she will defend the thesis. Would that be enough, or is there some sort of like official statement necessary?
There is an official statement from the faculty that states that this person has now reached the stage that the PhD is accepted and it has granted the permission to defend. And that's the certificate we need.
Okay.
Hello, thank you very much. It was really informative session. My quick question was about that overhead share about the institutions or like universities. So that includes within, like, for example, if my university have that criteria, so does it include within the budget that is the amount for postdoc personal amount, or is a separate cost? Like you said that we can still, other than this value, we can still apply for additional research cost. Can you please explain that?
Very good point to go through. Yes, it's only concerning the research or the project costs. So the personal grant is always paid directly to the grantee, and the research or the project costs are paid to the university. And from those costs, up to 15%, the university can deduct the overhead. And for that, we grant a separate overhead share for which you can apply at the time of application. So the 50%, let's say that you are traveling or doing communications and impact work, and for instance need some equipment, some small things to conduct your research. Let's say it makes 5,000 euros altogether, so 15% of those you can add on top of that to apply for the overhead.
Additionally, you said that we, like, unfortunately, I haven't gone through yet all this criteria that you have. You said that this personal grant cannot be used as a salary. So what are the criteria that we can use for this grant for?
Oh, that is intended for personal living costs. So it's paid monthly, just like a salary, but in terms of like legal and taxation terms, that's grant is something else than salary. So, but it's personal income for you. Yes.
But you still have the tax of. I'm not going to attack us on this. You still require a budget for this.
We require that you apply the amount per year for how many years you are applying for your project, because we can't know it in advance. are you applying for a 2-year project or 3 or 4 years project? So in accordance to the duration of your project, please apply for the amount of years, that amount.
And the information of your grant goes directly to the tax officers, so they know that you have received a personal grant. They will not come after you, as you said, not to the microphone.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. First, I actually don't have an official affiliation yet. I have this unofficial agreement with my supervisor that if I get some money, then I can enroll. Should I move further with that, or is it okay for me to apply already?
In case you already have a supervisor, you have contact there established, it's pretty certain that the university will sign your commitment form. Please be in touch with the university where you would like to conduct the research, for instance, where your supervisor also works, and get in touch with the dean or in the faculty and ask who is the right person there to sign the form.
Okay, thank you. Next question is for the research costs. I can't be sure in the first year, and I'm thinking there might be some research costs in the 2nd or 3rd year. Can I add that money in the later application for continued years?
The whole amount needs to be applied at once. So for the whole duration of the project. So please try to, I know it's difficult and partly it's also impossible, but try to think for all the needs realistically what you might need. If you are, for instance, you are planning to visit 1 conference per year in Finland or 1 in Europe, let's say, so approximately assess the amount and please apply for that.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. I had a question concerning the starting of the position and things like that, because right now I am affiliated with the University of Helsinki, but so I will still be affiliated by the application period, but when the results are out, I will no longer be affiliated with the university. So does that work as the same as you said? Because since someone has already signed that it's okay or something, then hopefully if I get something, then the following year in 2027, can I then apply for for example, I would apply for the ELOISA program at the University of Helsinki.
Very good question and good point to be clarified. If you have a current affiliation, if you're working in a project that ends in the near future, that affiliation doesn't cover your project you are applying from us. So you need to agree on the affiliation for the project you are applying from us. So that if you are starting a postdoc project next year, then it will be a different project than your current affiliation. So always consider the project you are applying for, not your current status.
Okay, let's take a last 1 question there. Then we are running a bit over time, but remember you can then book a sparring session also in August to go through questions.
There's also a lot of questions on the chat, but I guess we will answer them on our Q&A section on our website after this.
I was just curious because you mentioned there was 5% rejection in the applications. Why is that? Why is it only acceptance? Sorry, why is it only 5% acceptance?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's so low, but since we received almost 800, 600. Now I'm lost with the numbers. Yeah, if we received 586 applications and we only had the 3 million euros to give out, the money simply ran out. So obviously there were a lot of good applications. We could have granted more, but our budget didn't allow it. That made it end up in the 5% of acceptance rate.
I think if it's okay, we can go a little bit longer than expected if there was some questions over there.
Thank you. I want to ask as a clarification. I also have a similar situation with the permission to defend the doctoral thesis. I was wondering, is this like a criteria just to be sure that the student will graduate? Because if the supervisor is sure that the student will graduate, do you also need the committee to decide on that? Because the project starts next year, and I might just have the permission to defend maybe 1 week after the 6th of November. I was just wondering, is there a legal requirement or specific reason to ask the permission to defend from the doctoral committee only?
Yes, it's a good point, but yes, we have defined that the official permission to defend needs to reach us by the 6th of November, because we know there have been cases that something has happened that for instance, a PhD hasn't been accepted due to some reason. Everyone is an individual case, and the defense has even been postponed by a year. That made even prohibit the person to start the grant during the required calendar year of 2027. So in case of something like that happens, we want to ensure that the applicant actually can receive the funding and start the project during that year. That's why we have come into this solution.
I have a question. I have noticed that there was specified information only in the postdoc section that what happens to the grant if there is like a sick leave or paternity leave. Is it the same kind of rule for the doctoral, in case of doctoral studies? Like, what if something happens, life?
Of course. Then in that case, for those same reasons, the grant can be extended, or the grant will be put in a hold for that time and then continued later. Okay. But why it is stated specifically in the postdoc part is that we have this 5-year rule that we are targeting our grants for early career researchers. So it's 5 years from the defense or 5 years from the graduation to doctor. So in case during those 5 years you have had these kinds of situations, then the 5-year time span is made longer for that time.
Thank you for clarifying that. And maybe the last question, I was wondering, what happens, let's imagine I will be the lucky 5% who are chosen, and I then wonder, how will I report on the progress of the work? Like, what is to expect for the upcoming years of the grant being granted?
Yes.
How does it look like?
We require reporting once per year. So every 12 months, you report your work, what you have been doing, how is the progress, and we are also very eager to hear actually how you are doing, what have you been doing, is there anything we could help you with? We are very are open and eager to hear how it's going. But also, for instance, for doctoral thesis grantees, the statement of the supervisor comes also there. So once in every year.
Come from this way.
Just a quick clarification about the affiliation, because at least like in the doctoral school, University of Helsinki, it says that it requires 1 year of funding before you can apply for the PhD. Like, you need to have secured that. But then if it requires that funding and you require an affiliation, how does that work then?
Sorry, now I think I didn't quite understand. So what do you mean?
Eloisa, before you apply for the PhD, it tells you that you need to have secured 1 year of funding before applying for the PhD program. Mm-hmm. But you are saying that I need to have a PhD accepted to apply for the funding, but then...
Now I get it. So you're talking about the PhD funding, right?
Yes.
Yes, so in order to obtain the study right, you need to have secured... Yes, but the affiliation or the commitment form, it states that it commits only in case you are granted. Okay. Usually, I mean, the universities are very happy to sign it, because then it only means that in case this person got funded, then we commit to these things, and then we can obviously also give the study right very easily.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have a question about the recommendation letters of postdoc applicants. So do you require those?
They are not mandatory. They are not required per se. But obviously, I mean, you can. There's a part in the application you can also ask for 2 recommendations.
Okay. Yep. Thanks.
Is this the last one? Is this okay? This is the last one. People seem like they need to go. So.
I wanted to ask. Other than affiliated institution from Finland, is there any scope to collaborate the international, like external institutions as a collaborator to this application or not? Is it allowed?
What
from another country? That could be in US or that could be in like in Finland or other European countries.
That is, of course, fine if your affiliation university has that kind of contract and that gives you some kind of possibilities. But what we require is that the affiliation is to this Finnish university or research facility.
Okay.
And that's the main implementation site of your study.
So part of the work I'm still allowed to do in another universities that doesn't bother with the application process?
No, as long as the main affiliation is in Finland.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for the questions, and we will be updating our frequently asked questions parts on our website as well. We'll look at through what came through the chat. So we thank you everybody and look forward to your applications in August. Thank you.